Right, y'all. Welcome to Street Church. Come on in, congregation. And the first time visitors, welcome, welcome, welcome. I got a sad, this is a sad one. And tragic and evil and just wicked. And it just continues to be about lawlessness and wickedness. Just running wild in America and just increasing um, more and more every day. And what's even sad as a black man to see that it's happening in the black community, it's just running wild. The lawlessness is just running wild. It's just boiling over. And sadly, I don't see it stopping. I see it continuing to rise, and even more so when they take away um, the privileges that they're going to take away, and the ability that they continue to keep doing is what people are not paying attention to is they're going to continue to take away the black market and the street market. And these young people are going to just be addicts out here looking for a criminal fix to solve things. And it's not going to solve anything. They're going to seek to harm people that they shouldn't be seeking to harm because there's not going to be anything out there for them to get on the streets or in the black market. That's even including the internet. They're working on ways to stop street activity from happening on the internet to make any money off of it. They're cutting pipelines, they're closing channels. And they're doing it at a rapid pace, and the people do not understand what's ahead because all it's going to do is make young street people turn on people in their community and people in rural areas and in the suburbs. They're going to be attempting to come out in those places and commit more crimes and hurt people that they shouldn't be trying to hurt. Look, let's just be honest. Look, they supposedly robbed somebody in a church. Excuse me, and I know it ain't. I know it ain't the first time, and it won't be the last time. But they already doing that. They already done that. They already doing that. These type of things. I watched a video during COVID time where they was going into churches and just hurting innocent people for no reason, just beating up on them, just bullying them, just for no reason, then walking right out. Right? I guess they were relating it to Black Lives Matter. You know, they were. I guess that was a part of their protest, but it's just evil. But my subject today is sad. It's about the young lady who died maybe a week or two ago in Jackson, Mississippi. SHA'MAYA Anderson. SHA'MAYA Anderson was 15 years old. She was gunned down, uh, shot multiple times, um, and she was just shot on the streets and gunned down like some animal. I don't know what the young lady had going on. I will say this about young people: they are gravitating to criminal activity and sex, drugs, and violence. Let's just say a lot younger and more frequently than like I've ever seen. And it's sad. It's sad. It's sad. It's sad. It's sad. It's sad. And on the flip side of that, we're watching older people who most likely these kids are birthed by street people. Let's just You know what I'm saying? Let's be real. This is street church. I gotta lay it out. You seeing your nephew who out there selling dope, having 3 or 4 kids. Your cousins, your mama, your sisters, your brothers, your uncles. Everybody who is out there on the streets themselves have had kids who they didn't raise them and train them in upright. See, we got like a couple decades of this going on in the black community, right? Was a was a was crack and heroin was what made people start having street kids that are already automatically, we as a black community been training these kids to be street people, and we don't want to be honest, we don't want to be accountable, we don't want to be responsible, but we are responsible for raising these kids on the streets. I'm a former drug dealer, former gang member. I always tell people I'm a former gang member of the Gangster Disciples. I sold so much dope, so much drugs in my life, and I did it for a very long time. And I just watched my own partners have kids and raise, because I never raised my kids, and when I was ever around them, I never brought no street element to them. None of my kids can say I done that. That's the one good thing I did, was really not go around them, because I know I wasn't living right, and raise them to believe it's okay to have some of this street knowledge, this street intellect that is not even intellect, it's foolishness. It's no intellect in living the street life. But anyway, I just watched my friends raise all their kids to be street kids. They smoked weed around them. They chased girls around them and had different girls in their life instead of just their mama. They, in the same vice versa, same thing. The women laid with many men in the home, smoked weed, drank around them, and it's so sad because a lot of times they would push their kids away off to do whatever they do with no guidance and no chaperones, no shepherd, right? They would just send their kids off into their rooms to do whatever they wanted to do so that they can continue to smoke weed and drink and have fun. So what do you think that did? So this is something that has plagued our community, and like I said, we are responsible. There's like, I'd say from the 70s, middle 70s, all the way up until now, we've trained them to be street people. In the 70s, we trained them to be drug dealers. In the 70s and the 80s, we trained them to be drug dealers. And then in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, we trained them to be rappers and to celebrate being a street person. And now, the ones that we raised up to be street rappers and gangsters rappers and rap about this like this is some kind of street report, like a news report, right? Or like it's bragging rights to be some kind of drug dealer. Now this generation, the rap music, the drug dealers, the street people are raising our kids to be killers or sexually immoral. Or drug addicts. That's what we've been doing in the black communities, raising them to be involved in sex, drugs, and violence. That's what we've been doing in our communities. We've been raising them and we've been pushing them away When schools, public schools, really meant education, when they were really for education, and we was pulling them out of there and making them gangbangers and drug dealers. We were taking them out of the schools when they were actually teaching something. When we had good teachers, good role models, teachers were both role models and educators. That's not what's happening in public schools now. They some sick groomers and pedophiles now. And into witchcraft and into Satan. But when education was really education in public schools, look how we did as a black community. We was taking them out of there. You see all the movies that's made is about dropout drug dealers. You know what I'm saying? Boys in the Hood, Minister Society, New Jack City. That one movie, The Principal, that they made a lot of them. You see that they had all of it set up to where all the minorities, black, brown, and even white people who were poor, who ended up in these poor communities, because that's what it is, right? It ain't about color. It's never been. Um, but you see in these movies where education was the thing that was laughed at, that these wayward kids were told they ain't got time for that if they want to be real street people and stuff. If you look at all those movies, you'll see some element of that, where education is taken lightly. People who want to do the right thing and be good toward these kids were tormented and beat up on and ridiculed and pushed against, right? And in a way, like most of these movies, the killings and all that, that's the part that's celebrated. It ain't gonna be, um, like any movie you watch, Juice, all of these movies taught the same thing: to look down on education and to look up to them streets. And so that was a part of the training. But we need to hold ourselves as black people accountable. We've been teaching them, we've been teaching our kids for at least 3.5 decades to be drug dealers, sexually immoral, to be violent. We've been doing that ourselves. We've been teaching that a long time. A long time. Through all types of, the same way with the sexual immorality. Why Did I Get Married was about infidelity. Um, you know, there's so many other movies, you know what I'm saying, about infidelity and cheating that is made, that the lead roles end up being black people on that end of the spectrum. I'm not talking about any other movies. We need to hold ourselves accountable. Don't go on here and comment and talk about some other movies and stuff like that white people or Mexicans was in, or Latinos or Puerto Ricans or Hawaiian people or Chinese people or Vietnamese people. I don't want to hear about that. I'm a black man holding my own black community accountable for what I'm talking about in this video that led to this 15-year-old SHA'MAYA Anderson being gunned down multiple times. And even the suspect was so brazen that he followed up by coming back to shoot up the crowd of people who were there surrounding her. He done came back and shot some more and then got in his car. So he was determined. I don't know if she was one of them and he got who he intended to get, but to come back and shoot again, and I guarantee you, this young man ain't that old. I can guarantee he is not even in his 20s. I can guarantee you that. He came with a purpose and he came determined. And that says a lot. You're only dedicated to something you've committed yourself to, something you've been trained to do. And we as black men and women are training. We have done it. We're doing it. And we're going to continue to do it if we keep doing what we do in our lives, in our own lives. And we continue to be, smoking blunt, smoking weed when our kids is 5, when they're 3 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old, 8, 9, 10, right there. Between them times, listening to street music, pushing them away, making them go to play the PS5, but they can hear us talking our street talk, talking our sex talk, drinking on the Hennessy, drinking on Watt, having a whole bunch of pills laying around, smoking weed in our single family rentals. We're going to continue to train them to be drug dealers, strippers, shooters, killers. Because girls see their mama preparing to go out for the club for the night, and they drinking on their little wine, smoking their weed, and she right in their grill, looking at them prepare themselves to go lay with the next guy for the week and the next guy for the week and go to the club and be drunk and be so drunk that they get into it with this guy who ain't their husband or nothing, but they get to see the domestic violence too, part of it and stuff. And what they do, they learn to accept it. So they get on that pole and they let whoever be their man and violence be a part of it, and they don't say a word. They don't do anything because they think this is a part of it. This is what they've been trained to do, because we got women who live like this in front of their daughters on a regular basis. Come on, this is street church. I'm gonna lay it out. I've been through it all. I've seen it all. I've been a part of it. I've been a partaker of it. I've been in it deep. They call it trenches. I've been in the trenches. I've seen it all. So this is the way that your kids are growing up to get trained like it, and you're delusional to think they ain't taking after you if this is the way you live. You are delusional. You have a problem, and that probably need to be the thing. You need to go work on your mental health, and you need to take your kids with you so that you can get some help mentally and find out what your kids really think of you. Because it's probably terrible. They probably have contempt for you and everything. They probably hate you for the way you putting them through them conditions. That street life that you conditioning them in. They probably hate you for it. And you're not going to give them any choice but to become that. And so that hate is going to come out on who they date and who they have kids with. And it's going to be a never-ending cycle. That's the problem right there. And so anybody who see this video, just know, me, you, and anybody else who lived the street life around our own family and friends, and how we lived with each other and one another, and how we showed that street life to each and every one of our kids back and forth. Me coming to your house with the drugs, smoking weed, you coming to my place with the weed and the drugs, me going to different girls' houses, you going to different men's houses, always smoking, drinking, clubbing around these kids. All of that smoking, that drinking, that walk, them drug sales you was making when the little kids was having their birthday, and your man was making all them drug sales and stuff right there at the doggone birthday party with no regard for them kids. That's what trained them up to be the drug dealers and the killers, shooters, and strippers that they are today. So congratulations. You raised a street person. That's what you did to your child. That's what we all did to our kids. Shame on us. May God have mercy on us. In Jesus' name, amen. Anyway, SHA'MAYA Anderson, 15 years old, Jackson, Mississippi, gunned down. A shameful and sad thing. But we as a black community are responsible for it. We are responsible. And we are accountable. And I don't care about us not being accountable to anybody here on earth, but you will be held accountable to God. So just remember that. You know, the worst thing Pac ever tried to say is only God can judge me. That gave people the wrong mentality for a lot of years too. That right there puffed people up to make them believe only God could judge them, so you don't have to listen to nobody like me doing this video or anybody else trying to give you some truth, you know, trying to hold you accountable, trying to make you be responsible, trying to reason with you. You done set up and told them now, since you heard Tupac say, oh, only God can judge me. Only God can judge you. But he is going to judge you, but he's not the only one that can judge you. But if that's what you want, you don't want to take my judgment on your behavior and your evilness, right? Because, see, I'm a sinner myself, so my judgment is lenient. I'm trying to do it out of meekness and love, right? God has sent me to be meek with you and to do it out of love with you. Because when you go to see him, you're only going to be prepared to face his wrath. You're not going to receive his love if you don't receive his love now. You only have his wrath to face. See, that's why you don't want only God to judge you. You don't want that. You want me to judge you right now so that you can hold yourself accountable and be responsible and change your ways, repent, turn away, right? So that when you go to receive God, you go to receive his grace. You don't want his wrath. You don't want only God to judge you. You think you do, but you don't want that. It's the weight is too powerful. The judgment is too powerful. The condemnation is too powerful. It's the lake of fire for eternity. You sure you want only God to judge you? All right. So anyway, I'm going to let the congregation out. All right. Y'all be blessed. God bless.